All right, everybody, I think we're live. Welcome to A Crack in the Darkness with our special guest, Nobleness Dee, and my other host, who is missing in action. Hopefully she'll make it in here pretty soon. Thanks, everybody, for waiting. Can everyone hear me all right? All right. Yes, they can hear me.
Yep. That's an affirmative. Awesome.
Affirmative. All right, I have no clue what we're doing, but here we are. With
Right
a lot of
on.
work.
Yeah, thanks everybody for hanging in and bouncing around in some links.
Yeah, I think I might have almost got this figured out now, so hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother next time. But yeah, I'm waiting for my other host to show up. Hopefully she'll make it back. But we got Noble here with us. And we're going to let Noble talk because I like to hear what Noble has to say. And usually when he's on the other shows, it seems to get cut off a lot. But hey, Emma, 265. Awesome. How are you doing, dear?
It all depends what I'm talking about.
Oh, it's always interesting to me. All right, let me do a quick shout out to the room before we get rolling here. We got Emma 265. Strictly my opinion made it in. How you doing, dear? She got a wrench. Melissa's sporting her wrench. We are Dust made it. Z-Watch and Rena. Wow, not bad for messing up all them times. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Hey, White Rabbit just hopped in the room. Nice. Always liked the rabbit.
Hey, Rabbit.
Dolly
Hey, Z-Watch.
was in.
Dolly.
Right. Z-Watch, Dolly. Awesome.
Hey, I don't have a wrench. Where's my wrench? I want a wrench.
Hold on.
I'm unsubbing. I'm unsubbing if I don't get a wrench. I
Hold
mean
on.
it.
Oh, man. Lost our first
I'm totally
guest.
joking.
I got to remember. Oh, there you are. I had to find you.
My world's going to come to an end if I don't get a wrench.
Give him a wrench. Before he leaves, I can't. I already lost my host. He's my guest.
I got one too. Look at that.
Hi, Tammy. Tammy showed up. Oh, no. Here we go, Rena. We can't have that. I love you too much. You go anywhere. You ain't going nowhere, girl. You settle the heck down there. Settle down.
I think it's all a pun.
It's too late. She's wrenched now. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. We got like working on a dozen people here. We're doing good.
Cool beans. Well, like I said, we didn't really have a game plan. I like to just go where the spirit blows. You know me, so could be an interesting show. Could be who knows what. But we got Noble, so I know it'll be interesting. And if anyone sees Belinda, please tell her we're looking for her. She seems to have disappeared, and she is the host of the show. So we're going to hold it down till we can find her.
Yeah, she was around. I think her something was going wrong with her audio and whatever, computer or phone.
Yeah,
something started jamming up on her.
Between my mess ups and her mic wasn't working, but hey, we got it running. We'll get her under control. But yeah, I think you said something about wanting to talk about maybe some quantum computing that you've tried to talk about on the last couple shows and sort of get cut off and missing. Yeah, I like to hear. I already heard it. I love it. I think it needs to be out there. So if you want to just roll on about some quantum computer for a while, I would just sit here quietly and enjoy it.
Yeah, I could give you a bit of a rundown. It's kind of in the mix of, the quantum computers or the DWave and the AI. And I don't know. I hear people say things and of course I have my own opinions on it, but I've been trained on computers as far as programming goes, at least the fundamentals, which is the most important part, honestly, to know what's really going on in microprocessing and basic programming and most of all the programming nowadays is done like many programs to write other programs. So I'm not really into that. I did a little bit of C++, but it's all annoying and boring. But when you come down to the fundamentals of regular computers and regular processors and algorithms and things that essentially make up what's being referred to as artificial intelligence is really not even true. Like the term artificial intelligence is nonsense. It's not intelligent. It's artificial. It's a program, and that's all it is. I know I heard one guy making the argument, which was all right, just because he didn't really understand about randomness, as if artificial intelligence could be essentially real because of randomness, and sort of blaming or pointing at our thoughts being random based off randomness at all as well, which I don't believe it is. It's actually more so based off emotion is the foundation of our thoughts, believe it or not. I guess that could be debated, but that's how I've come to understand it. Whereas the randomness of a computer is not random. Now they do things that makes it appear random, and it goes hand in hand with a slot machine, pretty much identical scenario. So what's done is you have what they call a timer chip, but essentially just counts around in circles. It just counts really high, like ridiculously high, and then starts over again. But it does it so fast. It does it at the clocking rate of your computer, so it's going like a billion times a second. I don't know how many gigahertz your processor's working at is how fast it's counting. I think it's whatever, they're at 3 gigahertz now or something, whatever. So that's 3 billion times per second you get counting 3 billion per second, right? Like it's an insane number. So whenever you do something that's apparently random or seems random, and in the case of artificial quote unquote intelligence, it's a selection of options that it'll get, right? So there's all these different options that a computer may say or do, or a direction or path it may take. And that depends on what number it gets. Well, that number depends on essentially when you push enter or when you do whatever, right? And that signal eventually gets to the chip. So it seems random, but there's nothing random about it. You're causing it to happen. And that would really hold the same if you're sitting there talking to something. At the moment that that information reaches the processor, which is in the form of a number, but in any case, basically as soon as that trigger happens, as soon as that switching happens, then the associated number at that point in time would be what determines what happens through what's not exactly randomness. So that's essentially, that gives you an idea like how artificial intelligence seems intelligent, or seems, well, an angle of an idea, I don't know, an angle of it that seems random, or it seems as if it's just doing whatever when it's not. Most of it depends on you, the timing of the input, and of course, more so it depends on the program, right? What choices it has to select from. DWave and quantum processors is a whole nother ball game. And I guess in the future, they could integrate quantum processors into AI. I'm not really sure how they would go about it, but really, one moment. Dolly, is it possible the AI we are seeing is fallen angels manifesting themselves, though? Is that possible? I think it might be possible for a computer to be infiltrated, let's say, but with the help of with the assistance from humans, though. I don't think fallen angels can so easily manipulate things, but with assistance from us, usually with seals and sigils and whatever, spells, that type of stuff, or whatever, different things, rituals and stuff. They might be able to, in some of these supercomputers, they might really be built and for that, they might even put them in certain locations on the planet and do different rituals and maybe sacrifices or whatever, but definitely seals and sigils, and it gives them more strength or more more grip on the computer, the physical world in that location. And so maybe, you know, given the powers of the people that run things, they just may do that. But even in that case, I don't think the entity doesn't exist as data. It doesn't exist as ones and zeros. It exists as whatever energy, a lot of it being electromagnetic energy. So I would say if it is happening, basically the entities would piggyback a program, you know, artificial intelligence. It would just piggyback along. So what it would do is when that input goes to get chosen and that randomness apparently looks like it happens, it could affect the randomness, right? So it could delay or maybe speed up or whatever, just a hint, because there's like, you know, 3 billion numbers that go by at once, as an example. It could hint it a little bit one way and therefore choose a different number. Um, uh, Probably minimally. You know, it might be even more extremely be able to control the situation to degrees I don't know, or whatever levels I don't know, where it's literally acting and talking, for lack of a better term. Everything controlled by an entity, maybe. You know, I don't know to what degree that could happen, but certainly I don't see why it's not possible in theory, and it may be doing that in a piggyback sort of way to the program.
I
Let's see
agree.
here.
Z-Watch says that he don't think we're
Yeah.
fallen angels, but we know in Revelations the image will speak. Very good point. I think that's sort of where I lean. I think they are going to use something like an AI to possibly give the beast an image to speak through. Uh, Tammy Sanford said, I actually wondered if we weren't an upgraded, or if we weren't AI upgraded, going from human 2.0 to 3.0. Being that I believe what I believe, I don't think so, in my opinion, because I think the only upgrade we're going to get is when Jesus comes back and we become like him. White Rabbit, that one's addressed to you, so if you want to run with that one, brother.
Yeah, don't they have to make it colder than space and inside a Faraday cage or with shielding? With the quantum computers, they do. So with a regular processor, and as we'll get into that now, with a regular processor does math. That is all it does. End of story. Does nothing more than add one number onto another number. And with adding, you can get multiplying. And actually, with two base numbers, if you invert the second one and add them, you're doing subtraction, which means you can do division. And that's it. That's all it does. A regular processor just does math, takes numbers in and processes them according to other instructions of how to process them, what calculations to do with what numbers. And that's all it does. And it does it at the rate of the frequency of the processor, which is nowadays around 3 gigahertz. So 3,000 calculations per second. I shouldn't even say that because it sort of calculates in a circle. So I guess you can say 3,000 calculations per second, but it could, like, say when you multiply things together, we'd have to go through quite a few cycles to get a full multiplying calculation done. Depends what you're calling the calculation, I guess. But when it comes to, when you talk about the cold, the extra cold, and the shielding, that's with the quantum processor. So I guess, because in order to know that, you know, okay, so you generally know how a processor kind of works. It does math, right? Data goes in, and it does math and spits data out. The program is held in RAM, which is temporary memory. So it's constantly looking for information in order to know or how to manipulate other information coming in from an input. Could be anything, a microphone or whatever. So everything is done on a number system of ones and zeros, which is just a counting system and a way to calculate. So a regular processor is done literally by mathematics. Literally, that's it. Just nothing more. No other magic happens. Whereas a quantum processor, it doesn't work by mathematics per se. There's probably some going on, you know, outside of it or after the fact or before the fact if you're running a whole DWave computer. But the processor itself, for the most part, is done with qubits. So a qubit is a little special little setup, a little whatever, a little box, whereas the there's a single particle, essentially. Actually, it can be done with a particle, it can be done with the direction of current is another way they do it. So what makes a quantum processor quantum, the only reason why that term is even used is because they're taking advantage of how things act at a very small level in the quantum world, in the very, very small world, how a single atom acts, or how a electron acts on an atom, right? You get electrons that spin around the nucleus, how they act, or how you can make current in other ways. You make current run in two different directions at the same time to create that setup. So the one I know best is with the electron. So normally you have electrons running around this nucleus of some given atom. And if you take a laser and you throw some energy on some specific atom, you can actually get an electron to jump to the next shell out, right? You get your outermost shell and your innermost shells. So what they do, they came up with a trick with perfect timing, to blast an atom with half the power needed to get that electron in the next outermost shell. So what happens in the quantum world is the electron actually ends up existing on two shells at once, or two rings at once, in two different places at once. It's not in the inner, it's not in the outer, it's on both. So they use that that scenario or that setup to represent, and it's just representation, a 1 and a 0. So it represents both at the same time. It's neither 1, it's neither 0. It's both. It's a qubit. And that's basically the term of qubit, is it represents both two things at once. And it's a very perfect balancing of energy in order to do this. And that's why it has to be done at extremely shielded situation, extremely cold situation. If it wasn't really shielded, even the electromagnetic fluxes of the Earth, whatever, probably reality or any other atom floating by, would obviously just collapse the thing one way or the other, totally ruin the balancing. So this is what they do. In the beginning, they set up all the qubits in that state. So they're all balanced and they all represent both a 1 and a 0 at the same time. You could look at it as like a scale is a really good example. If you have a scale, you have a 2-dish scale, you have a balance beam scale. Probably think of it like a balance beam scale. So you have a dish, and then you get it so that it's at the 0 mark. It's not falling down, it's not up, it's totally balanced perfectly. But if you add or take away a little bit of weight, it'll go up or it'll go down. And instead of weight, when it comes to this manipulation of an atom, a single atom, it's if you add a little bit of energy or you take away a little bit of energy, right? The electron will shove all the way one way or all the way the other on which ring, and therefore represent a 1 or represent a 0. And it's just for representation is all it's for. So now you have it like a dish, which is kind of like, a perfectly balanced triple beam scale, I guess would be the one. So that would be like a single qubit, excuse me. So it's balanced perfectly. It's ready, it's set up and ready to be used. And then if you have 2 or more of these dishes, which actually with the DWaves now, I think they're up to 3,000 qubits in a single computer, which is really pretty primitive. It's pretty, pretty young in some sense to how many they're using, but they have a few thousand of them. And how they're interlinked or how they react with each other is essentially the programming. So, or part of the programming. So you have these, what they call couplers in between each qubit, many of them, to all different, every qubit is connected to every other qubit, maybe even more than once, I don't know. But generally, so you could have a setup to say, if this qubit goes high, then I want this one to go high, and if these two go high, I want this one to go low. But if this one goes high, then if A goes high, B goes high. Well, if A goes high, I want C to go high too, but maybe only at 50% less, not probability, but 50% less important. Let's say, I know there's a word I'm missing there, as it is to B. So you can kind of set up to angle it and how important it is for one to be high or low, or any condition, how important is that condition, essentially. So to have two go low at the same time, or if one goes high, the other one has to go low, or maybe only 10%, you know, how important it is. So essentially this positioning or interlinking of all the couplings between all the different qubits is the major part of the programming. And so what happens is, essentially, if you're imagining now all these different dishes that are like balance beams, and they're all perfectly balanced and they're all interconnected. So now once you set that programming up, which hasn't affected, you know, where they're leveled to, but as soon as you add some weight somewhere, all of a sudden you're causing almost like a domino effect of things happening. The things that happen are based on the conditions you already set it up as. So now they can input data, and what you will get as an output, you know, where do these dishes end up? Is it going to end up high or low, right? Each one, when you start inputting data, and this data is variables, right? So, and then everything will, all of them have to go high or they have to go low. They won't sit in the middle anymore. They have to do one or the other. And some of them may go against the conditioning that you put in because other conditions were more important than others. And what you will get is not a perfect answer. There is no perfect answer ever, but there's the best answer. And that's what you always get, the best answer. So to make a little bit more sense of all that, I'll give you an example or a situation where it could be used. And a good one is airline companies. So you have an airline company and you have a bunch of different planes and you have all these different flights to and from different airports. You have different days of the week, different times of the year, different size of planes. And of course, do you want to make the most money? And you want to know then, you know, how often to have a flight from one place to the other, how big of a plane to be using perhaps. And all of this basically to maximize your profit, which the main part of that is minimizing the amount of fuel you use, right? You don't want planes flying around empty. You don't want people mad because they're missing flights, you know. So they have these are all the different variables that they put in, and they'll get the best answer out. Okay, here's what we should be doing. And for a regular processor to figure this out, it has to calculate everything around in loops, right? So you can only kind of go through one calculation at a time. So it's just basically running in circles, doing calculations, get an answer, and then do another calculation, get an answer, do another calculations. So it keeps spinning for freaking ever trying to figure out what is the best answer, right? What is the best, like obviously you can come up with an answer really quick, but it's not necessarily the best one. So you have to, there's so many different variables involved in order to try, it has to basically just try every condition and then analyze all the answers and to figure out which condition's best for the situation. With a quantum computer, you just put all the variables, all the conditions, and then boom, because they all interact with each other all at the exact same moment, you get the best possible outcome instantly. There is only one answer, and that's the best answer. And so that's basically the trick of a quantum computer, is that it can solve an equation or a situation or a scenario, I guess would be the best term, with many different variables instantly. It just gives you the best answer no matter what, because it's actually done in an analog way, which is scale. Like the example I was going to use with the scale, that's essentially analog, but it will give you out a digital answer of yes or no. But essentially what's going on on the atom or in the qubit is it's done almost like with weight or with energy, pushing one way or the other. The energy is pushing, right? And so that's essentially like an analog situation going on in order to determine the output. And wherever the tug of wars, you can look at it as tug of wars, you know, different ropes of different people, and they're all pulling in different directions with different amount of effort or focus and on different ropes. And you could give a scenario like that. But with the airport, so once you get the best answer, okay, here's all the flights we should be having at given times and given periods. That's great. You got the answer. Now they could have figured that out with a regular processor, probably in a couple of days or something. A regular computer could have figured that out. But what's great about the quantum computer now is if your conditions change, right? You have an airplane crash. You have some big rock band or rock fest going on somewhere. You have Christmas time. You have a disaster, right? You know, so now instantly you can input another variable and instantly get the best answer right away. So, and we're a regular computer, it's going to have to run through all the calculations for another couple of days. By the time that's done, no, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Conditions have changed again already. So this is where the quantum processor is a big advantage. It's like a priceless, I consider it a priceless sidekick to regular processing. In the future, they might do a lot more. They might use them more commonly in a way where they're actually using them for mathematics. Like right now, to use a quantum processor for mathematics is pretty stupid. Like it just doesn't even make sense, right? It's like using a freaking, I don't know, a big crane to push somebody on a swing. Like, yeah, it can do it, but it's kind of pointless. It's like it's just not really what it's made for. I don't know if it was kind of a dumb example, but yeah, like it's overdoing it and it's not even doing what it's supposed to be doing. I think there was another point I was going to make. Right. So there was something I heard from somebody. I didn't even watch the video, but I'm pretty sure they get it from a YouTube video. Had to do with a quantum computer can look at all of the data at once or something, and that's not true. That's not how it works. So if that Google would use it for that, so that when you go to input a search term, that it could look at it all at once and give you the answers that you're looking for. That's nonsense, because in order to access the data, it's coming in on a single stream. There's no other way around it, right? Just so many physical connections. In order for it to look at it all at once, we'd literally have to have a physical connection to every single data, whatever memory location that's available. Like, obviously it doesn't. It's all stored in data banks that have just single doorways where all the data is stored inside. So, but what it can do is it can instead, like, let's say, because a search term isn't always just a single term. And of course, even it doesn't even go by term. It actually goes by letters, the characters of the term, right? So even you spell one word, there's still actually multiple letters there. But even a lot of YouTube searches now or Google searches are multiple terms, right? What is the world's biggest boat? So that's like a bunch of words together. So what a quantum computer could do a little more efficiently, a fair bit more, I guess, is take all of those different words into account all at once and then go through the data. So it can actually look at it would probably cut the processing down by, more than 5 times in that case, probably, because it's a exponential type of situation, whatever. It would cut it way down, essentially. So it is a lot better than regular processors, even in that circumstance, that you could take a bunch of different it's a bunch of different variables all at once and into effect or whatnot. I don't know. I think I'm done rambling here. Did that make any sense to you there?
Yep. Like I said, we've talked about it for hours and hours before. And like I said, it's basically, for the layman, think of it as a super powerful probability calculator that comes up with the best probability out of any question, basically, is the way I look at it. And sort of what you're saying. It looks at every angle, looks at every possibility, and picks the most likely outcome, basically. For the layman terms. I mean, I know it's deeper than that, but
yeah. I'm just giving examples and sort of metaphoric, a metaphor type of example, somewhat.
I'll tell you what, if you want to scroll back through the chat, I think there was a couple questions through there. I'll go ahead and do another quick shout out since we had some more people come in. Although they're not showing up. I don't know why they're not showing up. Well, we had, let's see, Dawn come in, Arbolo, Tammy come in, but she left already, I believe. Who else didn't we get yet? Digital Intel, he came in. I am sure we called him out yet. Yeah, they had a couple good. Let me scroll back, see if I can find. Oh, White Rabbit had a good analogy. It's like a mouse looking for cheese in a maze, but it's sending out a lot of mice all at once that's all communicating with each other through entanglement. So, yeah, another good analogy.
Interesting one, yeah.
Oh, they're saying about Gordy Rose. Yeah, he's the founder of DWave. Personally, I think he's a front man. I don't think DWave does everything they want us to do. I think that's all. I don't know. I just get the feeling that that's more hype than reality when it comes to Gordy Rose myself. I mean, Ultra of an Alien.
As far as I'm concerned,
Heartbeat.
As far as I'm concerned, that's nonsense. What he said in his stage performance there, and then he did another bit with a small audience of regular people.
Yeah.
Matt from Quantum of Consciousness pointed out some good points, right? Like, these people are just regular Joe. Who are these people he's presenting to, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar freaking company, and they're just whatever. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't. But in his first, the main one everybody's seeing there in the Mandela community, when he's on stage talking about AI, and I think he made a couple comments that are probably very true in the end there about a few things. I can't remember how they went, but what he was explaining, what people took and went to town on, is what he was saying about, what was it? The molecules or the atoms or something was resonating into another reality. Like, I don't know where they get this from. This is nonsense. I mean, officially, scientifically, it's nonsense. Maybe, who knows what's really going on? Of course, I'm only learning what I learned from the DWave site itself. They got a handful of videos put up by scientists that is pretty hard to follow unless you already have an idea of what's going on. But initially, I had done a bunch of research on the qubits to figure out what was going on there. And then once I knew that, I still didn't quite get it all until I watched some of the DWave videos from the DWave site. And then it started making more sense as to what they were doing, or why they were doing what they were doing, what the point of the qubit was and how it goes into effect with the multiple qubits, with the couplings, essentially. Yeah, he says something about resonating into another reality, or accessing it. He also said accessing another reality to pull resources out of all things. I'm like, what resources? How does that even make sense? That's like nonsensical. Like, doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
I did just knowing that in the beginning, I did consider some weird stuff. I mean, the most you could maybe, theoretically, you could access another reality and get like a blueprint or pattern or a template for something different in that reality, and then imprint it into this reality. But the problem is, you need, like, it's so nonsensical. Like, you need magic wands, both on the inputs and the outputs. Like, okay, let's say a processor could do that, but how is it going to implement this into our reality? How does it even know what other reality it's accessing, or how to look for whatever information? And you have to convert all that information into numbers. Like, none of it even makes any sense. Like, and you can't convert reality into numbers anyway, because reality is analog. So even for us, I mean, one of the challenges was music. Music's one of the most simplistic forms of reality, sound, right? Sound is a wave. Of course, funky waves and multiple waves and whatever, but even the most simplistic a single sine wave, that's 1 kilohertz, right? You get a single tone, 1 kilohertz. Well, a computer can't even properly represent one. Well, it certainly can't store or represent one wave, one sound inside the processor. It has to convert it into numbers. So with music, what they do, they do sampling, right? And so at any given moment, and keep in mind, sound is only 2D, right? You got time, and you have an amount of energy, or a frequency, or whatever. In the case of sound, it would be a frequency, and frequency changes over time. So, or sound changes over time of the song. So they do sampling. So at one moment, it'll do a sample, be like, oh, there's this much energy, there's this much voltage, and it'll convert it into a number. And then any moment later, and I don't know what their sampling is at, probably 200-300. I don't really know what it used to be at. 200 or 300 samples per second or something, So essentially, it's all these little tiny sounds, but when we hear it, it sounds like it's all together. We don't hear the dead air in between each sound. It's not real. It's digital music. It's not real music. And honestly, it's probably not that healthy, or definitely not healthy, you know, not good for your spirit, your soul, like real analog music. Really, I think they push digital music. We really shouldn't be listening to it. It's all we got now, but we can't hear the difference. For something like a cell phone, it's fine. You know, you're having a conversation. It does a trick. It's probably not harming you that much. But for music itself, it's kind of destroying the whole point of music, is that flow. It doesn't have flow. It just has little blips of sound that's all so close together you can't hear the difference. So that's just with music. That's only a 2D sort of scenario. And a computer cannot even properly represent music. So the reality is like these vortexes of energy. You could basically look at it as, I think inside the Higgs, they theorize that it's like two vortexes of energy. You could say two tornadoes of energy, and the two small points of the tornado are at the same point. But actually, they're kind of like facing each other, and they loop around, kind of like a torus or something. And I think that's only theoretical. But in any case, whatever the heck's going on, and that's inside every quantum particle, is this 3D vortexing, constantly changing energies that's inside every quantum particle, which I don't even think is really a particle, but let's assume it is. I just think it's energy itself. And then all of each particle also, not only is it all twisting and turning and varying at every single moment, it's also affecting every quantum particle next to it at every single moment. And inside every atomic particle, like inside a proton or a neutron, there are literally trillions of quantum particles. And then maybe you can get some atoms, right? But just one single gram of atoms, which I've calculated before because of the whole Fukushima meltdown thing. If you take one single gram of atoms, and even if it's a heavy element, which these isotopes are, which an isotope is just a non-balanced atom, if you were to take 1 gram and spread it out as one layer on the surface of the Earth, it would wrap around the whole Earth, and in every square inch on the Earth, you would still have about 3 billion atoms. That tells you how small this stuff is. Like, it's incredible, right? So how many quantum particles do we have in the reality of the world, right? Or within the world? Like, it's endless. It's ridiculous. And inside of that, some 3D freaking vortexes of energy that's constantly changing and gone. You cannot sample all this stuff. Like, it's so nonsensical, right? Absolutely mind-blowingly impossible. So, obviously, processing and computers cannot represent reality. It's just so mind-blowingly impossible. It's hilarious. And I was seriously considering it in the beginning, Mandela Effect, trying to figure out, how far could they possibly be? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how far they might be. It's not done like that. I'm not saying that there's not some form of technology that's not actually a computer, not in the way that we think of computing. It's not doing mathematics. It's doing something else that's analog. I don't know. Maybe they have something, but most certainly a computer cannot do it. It's so impossible, I mean, just to store, because a processor also don't even work on the fly. You can't have data going in and data going out. You have to store everything. You have to represent it, and it has to be able to access it all from any given point in order to analyze it. So you bring all the data in, you analyze it, you make some changes, you stick the data out. Like, it's so, you can't store it all. You can't store reality somewhere. I mean, you're taking up, for every single spot you want to store a 1 or a 0 representation, you're taking up another trillions of freaking quantum particles and atoms just to do it. Like, it's so just ridiculous beyond belief. But anyway, any other good questions there?
Oh yeah, we got lots of cool stuff. I want to say howdy to Stonebender. Just joined in there to chat with us. Welcome. Yeah, Rope Arbolo 29 brings up a lot of good stuff. And also, let me see, I think it was White Rabbit. Yeah.
I see the White Rabbit got one there.
Yeah. It's sort of the same thing, I think, what Arbolo's saying, sort of. And I don't remember if I was saying this in a live show or one of the after chats. Who knows anymore? It's all confusing. But I was saying to someone and somewhere along the line, the way they make the DWave sound is basically like they wasted millions and millions of dollars on doing exactly what you can do with a Ouija board or channeling demons, or, you know, they say they're tapping another dimension. Well, we know what that means, to get back information. Well, you can do the same thing with the rate spells and stuff like that. So it's basically a high powered, someone even said in the comment earlier about it being like a high powered Ouija board. That's sort of a good way to look at it. In the long, if what they're doing, I don't think he's doing what they say they're doing, but if he was, then they just built a very expensive friggin' Ouija board.
Right. I could add on, that is one thing I was thinking about with the quantum processors versus regular processors. Now, I said maybe there's ways that they set up scenarios that they could have an entity piggyback a program and maybe have an effect on it. Even if so, it's probably kind of difficult for that entity to really control the whole situation. It's probably not that easy. I mean, they can't flip data. Not likely. It's just, it would take too much energy, too much effort for them. If they could, probably not for very long. It'd be like a really, really hard thing for them to pull off consistently. But with a quantum processor, because it's done in this sort of, these qubits are done in a balancing act. Like I said, it has to be highly shielded and very cold in order for that qubit to be set up like that. So if an entity can get through the shielding, which, assuming they can walk through walls, they probably can quite easily, right? It would be very, very, very easy for them to shift, you know, that qubit to the left or to the right or up or down or to a higher or low. Therefore manipulating the data or the output very, very, very easily compared to a regular computer. And that's a little bit what I'm concerned about, especially if quantum processors end up being used more and more commonly, like in AI, like literally a walking, talking robot. If somehow that they manage to get that technology small enough and common enough, yeah, maybe they can just possess the thing, and then you literally have a walking, talking, freaking demon or fallen angel or something, right? That's really where my concern lays, for which would be pretty far future away, relatively, right? You'd be talking at least a couple decades or something, I would assume. I mean, then again, who knows where they're at, right? Maybe they're so far ahead we don't even have a clue.
Yeah, we know they're always way far ahead of whatever they're putting out there. That's for sure. I mean, I've been in the military. I know that for a fact. The public never sees
Right.
what's really there for, probably 20, 30 years at least ahead of what's being broadcast. In my opinion, anyhow. See Love Warrior come in. Welcome to Love Warrior. Stonebender has no Mandela community. Well, he found one here. We're all crazy here, so you're welcome here for sure. Still looking for my other host. She's still missing in action, so we don't know what happened to her.
I see White Rabbit, kind of a comment question about the Higgs particle, supposedly what gives atoms with the combination of light and frequency their mass. What I did learn, assuming the information's right, but it did come from certain scientists, one of the is actually a head project manager of the Atlas section of the collider. Basically, because they discovered the Higgs, it assumingly starts to hold true. Then they didn't discover it; they created it. That's a whole other story, which they admit to over and over. They just leave everybody assuming that what they're looking for is something that already exists, and they actually say that they're making it all the time. But from what they say, every quantum particle has its mass depending on its movement through the Higgs field. through what is essentially the ether of reality, the fabric of reality, perhaps God's word. That's what determines the particle's mass completely. Like, and they're very clear on that, and they're very sure about that now. So, which doesn't make sense to us, given how we're taught reality and physical existence and whatever, and particles. How can you have a particle that has no mass unless it exists within the Higgs field? How does that even make sense? It doesn't, because it's not a particle. That's my reason why it doesn't make sense, because that's a lie. Our science is taken down the physical road, when as soon as you get small enough you can't see it, essentially, actually a little bit more, because whatever, even in an electron microscope you can't properly see much of anything. It isn't physical particles, it's energy. And so energy doesn't have mass, but when some energy interacts with other energy, which is the Higgs field, then it takes on mass. And I think that's the whole trick, or the whole sort of half deception that they're not telling us, or the part of everything they're not telling us, which is because everything else is a freaking lie, right? And they also have pointed out that they have no idea what gravity is. They can't account for gravity. They still say that over and over and over, which they probably really do know what gravity is. It's essentially not gravity. It's more like, I kind of have it pegged at, if I was try to put it in a term, kind of like electromagnetic buoyancy, I think would be, or maybe static buoyancy-ish combination. I don't know, something like that, essentially, and it does go hand in hand with frequency, which of course, in the New Age angle, that's kind of been blown out of proportion, but resonation would be a better way to put it. Something resonates, it'll get lighter and go up, because it'll affect the energy that it exists from, which essentially will spread out the energy, which means you're lighter, which would make you more buoyant. You'd literally just go up. But that's looking at energy almost compared to physicalness, even though it's not physical, it's just energy. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, electromagnetic buoyancy. I'll keep it simple like that. But if you're evil, right, if something's very, very evil, it's very dense. For whatever reason, the energy starts to collapse, like just get more dense. It's weird. It's like evil is dense, and good is more spread out, full of energy, full of life, and full of light. Light is energy, right? When you're full of light, literally all of your, not particles, bundles of energy, we can call them particles, is full of energy. And when you have things full of energy, just like how they explain electrons in a charged piece of electrical wire, like AC or DC current, the electrons are all bouncing around off each other. And when they do this, because they're all full of energy, they actually end up spread apart. And in the case of electricity and a voltage is always trying to get away from itself, right? That's why lightning can go from one far distance to another, can literally jump, because there's this big potential difference, and it's trying to get away from itself. And the more energy, the farther it can jump, the bigger, the further away that spark can jump to get to somewhere with a different electrical potential. So I think it's very similar with good and evil. Like, evil is very dense. It's not full of life and light. It's full of nothing. It's lacking. And so all of the energy it's made from starts to contract and become more and more dense. And when you become more dense, you'll fall down in reality, literally down into the ground. And I think a lot of them are stuck in the ground, like in matter. Matter, like there seems to be, of course, there's turning points, right? There's the physical world, there's matter, and then there is our atmosphere, and then there's whatever's above our atmosphere, right? The heavens. So I think there is literally crossing points that have been set up by God, perhaps, or whatever, but still within each one, like even in our atmosphere, we have denser down low, and you go high up in a mountain and it's thinner air. The particles are thinner, which are not particles. I'm claiming, right? And even when you go down the ground, the farther you dig, the more dense it gets. And they hid this from us too, but the Russians proved it, because long ago they tried to freaking dig it down as far as they could. The farthest down they could get is 26. I think it was 26 miles was the farthest that they could get and they were aiming for 28 or something like that. They could not dig any further. Nothing could do it. It just kept destroying all the drill bits and everything. It just got denser and denser and denser. And of course, in science, we're not taught that. We're taught dirt is dirt. Below the dirt is magma. That's all they teach us. So yeah, I don't really know what magma is or why it is or how it comes up. You know, who knows what the earth is? They teach all kinds of things that are fact when they're theory. You know, the core of the earth is metal, and who knows what the whole deal is. Who knows how much in the dirt is really magma? That most certainly could be a huge assumption or lie. Who really knows? I mean, clearly magma is more dense than regular dirt, so it would make sense that it would be down low. Why it turns to a liquid and it's really hot, I have no idea. You know, maybe it has to do once energy gets so far contracted that it starts to implode in on itself or something. Kind of makes some sense. Who knows? Who knows what the whole truth is? Any luck, we'll figure it out one of these days.
Yeah.
Kind of makes magma seem a little evil, but it probably is.
Well, it sure looks evil. I mean, I wouldn't want to get into that.
It does, doesn't it?
It just sort of looks creepy. Yeah, it's all speculation. I mean, that's, you know, we're not trying to say anything.
A good portion. Right. Yeah, a good portion of that I'm theorizing on, obviously. A great deal of what I just said, it's kind of my theory.
Yeah,
a lot of it's based from some sort of truthish info, wherever I get it from, right? But
yep, it's all any of us can do is speculate. You know, we don't know everything. I have no clue what the big man father's up to, so I just along for the ride and like speculation. I want to shout out to Laird Life. He showed up. Haven't seen him in a while. Awesome to see you, Laird Life. And who else snuck in on me? Oh, Crying Hippie popped in. He snuck in on me there. Shout out to Crying Hippie. I don't see any other questions. Anyone got any questions? Throw them up in the chat. We'll get to them. I think we freaked Love
we could definitely change topics if you want.
Yeah, we freaked Love Warrior out a little bit. She ain't liking it. She's feeling targeted, but it's okay. These are just speculations. I love Jesus, man. It's okay. It's all right to talk about stuff. You know. If anyone don't know I love Jesus, I guess they ain't been around me too much. It's all about him to me. He's got it all under control. That's why I like speculating, because ain't none of it scares me. I know who's in control, so it don't matter what they're doing. I don't know why this seems like evil talk, but that's cool.
Well, it's a very scientific-ish angle of things, right? And this has been constructed, dude. Like, we have been so set up to be put in boxes and for information to be boxed in certain ways. So I think it was done hundreds of years ago, where they essentially created science, right? And they had religion. And so religion became like information and spiritual, sort of, and science became the analyzing of the physical with your five senses. And so now they've separated spiritual and physical. Well, my very first standpoint is physical is spiritual. It's a part of it. No, I should reword that more carefully. Physical comes from the spiritual. Spiritual energy is the foundation of the physical world. That's why things can change. That's why you can do magic. People do magic. There's all kinds of examples in the Bible where they're changing things, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, Jesus even told
and God isn't necessarily working with these people when they do it either, right? There's some bad people changing things in reality sometimes in the Bible.
Well, right, Jesus even told us to take every thought captive, because we can speak life and death. I mean, there's power in our words. So spiritual definitely affects physical. No doubt about it. 100%.
Yeah. So they separated and created science, which is our perception, our limited perception, analyzing things from our limited perception, which is essentially our five senses. And turn that into science, which is basically the analyzing of the physical world. And then to keep that lie good, they called everything particles. And when they're not, I think that's a huge lie, but it is a particle-like scenario, and it does hold true. But everything they've identified, like they've identified indirectly, everything, all the quantum particles, all the regular particles, everything they've identified indirectly. Like when a particle moves through a magnetic field, they got sensors that can pick that up. They're like, well, see, there it goes. Yeah, well, my question is, there what goes, right? Just because something went through there doesn't mean it's a physical piece of matter. But anyway, so they created science, and then they shoved religion and belief and spirituality on its own. And then even within religion, they've taken spiritual and soul and stuck that into like the unknown heebie-jeebie world, and as if that's over there and we have no idea, and that's God's world and Satan's world. And they separated everything. It isn't, it's all one. Everything is all one. There's different things going on within it, good, evil, all kinds of crap going on, but it is all one. And this is our issue. That's why it just created division and boxes and perspectives that are all divided when it isn't. It's all one. We exist here with it. I don't know.
All right. Yeah.
It's annoying to me.
Well said. It's exactly what it is. You know, it's all one, but there is two sides battling. I guess is the way to put it. I mean, you've got good, evil, light, dark, whatever you want to call it. We all can see that there's definitely two different agendas going on here. Crip Crying Hippie got a question. Scripture on angels standing beside trees. I don't know, brother. I don't know if there's scriptures that say anything about angels standing beside trees or not. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Laird Life says, are spiritual and supernatural experiences the same thing? If so, how would you and your guest explain the differences? I don't think they're the same thing per se. Because I guess that's a pretty good question.
You know, I don't like the term supernatural now that I think about it. It's not supernatural. It is natural.
Yeah.
It's just we don't see it or perceive it. So therefore it doesn't seem natural to us. No, it is natural. That's my whole point. It is all one. Supernatural is a horrible word, a horrible term that they use. It's all energy. It's all energy is spirit, but spirit is life within the energy, right? So I don't really know how to put it. You know, you have organized, confined energy with a consciousness behind it. So, and in most cases, I guess you could say a soul, you know, but my kind of point is that spirit is energy, which is relatively controlled by the consciousness that exists within it, for lack of a better terminology. And that's why everything is all one, you know, it all interconnects.
Yeah, I would say what they call supernatural experiences, I would say definitely come from the spiritual realm, but the bad side, in my opinion. And what I consider a spiritual experience is more from the good side, is the way I look at it. But like I said, a supernatural isn't a really good word. But anything they call supernatural, like ghosts, talking to your dead ancestors, all that stuff, tarot cards, whatever, is from the spiritual realm, but it's not supernatural. I mean, they can do it. It's natural to them to do that. So, yeah, sort of what Noble was saying. Yeah, it isn't really supernatural. That gives it too much power, in my opinion. Too big a term for it.
It gives it too much division, in my opinion.
Yeah, because there's good,
you know,
experiences also, but yeah, that's a good question and a good subject. But what most people call supernatural, I would say, is from the bad spiritual realm, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of it on this world.
Yeah.
You know something, here's an example of something that sort of supports my perspective, from my current understanding, why do angels have wings? I know a lot of my life I never believed it. I thought it was dumb, pointless. That doesn't even make sense. Why would angels need wings? Come to find out, I actually have memory of an angel with wings. So why do angels have wings? There's a simple answer to that. Very simple answer, right? So they can fly. That's why. That's why they have wings, so they can fly. Because the energy world is very much like the physical world. It's just, it isn't as isolated. I don't know how to put it. Like, it's all energy. And so the physical world is more denser energy, right? It's more confined bits of energy. Whereas when you go up in the air, you have oxygen and whatever. And so it's more spread out energy. It's lighter, therefore thinner energy. And they still fly through that. You know, they still fly, even if they were to go above the atmosphere. I mean, you still have probably, and that's questionable too, but at the very least, you still have the ether. You still have the fabric of reality. So there's still something there for them to literally fly on, or to use to lift them, to lift their energy. Because even though they are far lighter energy, like far more full of light, full of life and good, or should say therefore good, in order to maintain that existence, they have to be, you know, not evil. They still have some, and I don't want to use the word weight or mass, because I think that's wrong too, but they still have some enough energy to them, enough confined energy to them that they will sink. So they still need to literally flap their wings in order to go up, for lack of a better term. I don't know. But yeah, they literally have wings in order to fly.
Interesting.
Sounds crazy.
I mean, I've never thought about it. It's an interesting, but then I would have to say, well, then how come they don't all have wings? To be the counter to that, I mean, because they don't all.
In what case? What do you mean?
Well, all the angels don't have wings, so why do only the some have?
Which angels and which circumstance are you referring to?
Well, I don't know. According to what I read, and I could be wrong, because like I said, I haven't really searched into the subject much, but I thought only the cherubim had wings and had 6. I thought, well, they're the only ones we know for sure, I think, has wings. Or maybe because the ones that walked on the land, I mean, we had the ones that came to Abraham, we had different angels, we had the ones that came to Sodom and Gomorrah that didn't have wings.
To Lot, right.
Because they were in the physical realm, do you think? Or
yeah, I would think, if I had a guess, is that they actually ended up being a little bit transformed. So they probably did have wings, but because they took on full physical form, they were essentially transformed into something else in for temporary basis to perform their deed or their mission with, you know, from direction or permission from God to do that. I would have to assume or guess. And then, yeah, I'm not sure. I would suppose in their end that would have to take faith in order for them to pull that off. It would be like us turning into a spirit being. It would take a lot of faith. And, you know, obviously support from God to be able to pull that off. So for them to come down would probably be the same thing without them actually taking on evil, you know, in order to become that confined, almost dense like. They would need help to do that without actually becoming evil, for lack of a better way of putting it. without being held like that, without sinking and not being able to get back up. If there's cases of other angels like up in the heavens that don't have wings, maybe they're just so good and so full of light that they just float anyway, you know, for lack of a better term. Float or go up. They can't come down. Who knows?
When it comes to them kind of subjects, I always just refer back to the first thing the Father taught me on this journey is the fact that I know nothing about how things happen. So I don't know. I don't know why they got wings. Is it to fly? Maybe. I don't know. I know nothing about that. That's always my go-to, man. You can't go wrong when you know nothing.
Yeah, well, most certainly. I don't know for sure. There's certain bits of things that I'm pretty sure about and whatever. I certainly take some guesses along the way. Like, you know, I guess you could say educated guesses, which makes it a hypothesis, but
Yeah, it's as good a crack at it as any. I mean, hey, we don't know, but yeah, it's who knows.
yeah. But like some things started coming to light for me when the more I studied into, well, it started with CERN, but more or less when I really started getting into the quantum to particle physics, and I started realizing this is not making sense. Like, why? How is this and how is that? And a lot of it started coming to information. Like the Higgs particle is basically their analogy is it's um, like one metaphor they used is it's like a rumor. So it's essentially just information. So information is making up a particle. Like, how does that even make sense? And then the mass, how you can have a particle without mass. None of this makes sense. Everything doesn't even make sense until I look at it from the other angle, whereas there is no particle, there is no physical matter, right? It's just there is, but there isn't, right? But it's not made from particle. The whole title of particle physics is a lie because it's not particles, not as we understand particles to be. And everything they were saying was pointing in that direction, that it isn't matter. It just appears to be matter to us. Light reflects off of it. And that's basically what makes matter. If particles are dense enough, then they can't go through each other. Things lock together or repel other energies, so it seems hard. All kinds of stuff. I mean, realistically, we should be able to walk through walls if we could disassemble or not disassemble, but weaken the bonds between all of our particles or bundles of energy, whatever it is. We could just walk through a wall and have it re-solidify or something or whatever, technically, given we had that much control over what we're made up of, which at some point we may. I mean, I don't really know what the heck the future holds. I mean, a lot of angles of the Bible teaches, and I don't really know, but definitely a lot of people's perception is, we leave this world behind and become something up in heaven. I don't know. I would rather cleanse this world of freaking evil. I would prefer. I don't know why. Just leave it to them. I'm not a big fan of saying, "No, you win. I'm out of here." Like, why run? Take them out, right? But I don't. Given everything, I clearly I don't really understand. What else there could be elsewhere, or what the future holds for everything, the extreme long-term future. But
Yep.
I mean, I know you're not supposed to be a lover of the world, but what does that really mean? Do they mean of the physical, or do they mean of the worldly ways, or whatever?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yep. I want to bring up a couple points here. Laird Life had a good. He says it's archangels is what he remembered who had wings. That's possible. I thought it was cherubims, but again, I've never really dug into researching it. Melissa said angels are powerful spiritual creatures who aren't bound by the laws of physics. I agree with that also. Weird Dust said in scripture, wings often cover. Now that I do know. Yes, wings normally are showed to cover something. They cover the Ark of the Covenant. They say about them covering the throne of God, I believe, the four cherubims in each corner. So yeah, they usually do represent covering something with their wings. What else we got here? White Rabbit, scene 1, seen an angel just hovering, not flapping, just hovering in armor. That's awesome. I don't think you're crazy. Very awesome. Evil is corruption in the Matrix. Arbolo, yep. I think we're caught up with all the comments. If anyone else got any questions, can be on any subject. But we've been going a little over an hour, I think. If anyone else wants to join in, let me know. You can come on and do a little talk. If you have something to share. I'm not sure how much longer Noble wants to go, but pretty good for the first test run here. Still don't know what happened to my other host. Hopefully she's fine, so send a prayer out for Belinda, people. Hopefully she's all right. I'm just reading chat.
Yeah, I've probably said enough of science-related stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Coming from that angle, anyway.
Pretty deep, brother. I enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody in the chat enjoyed it. They seem to. They're sticking here, hanging with us, talking. Talking about there is no spoon. I have no clue what that means, Melissa. No spoon. Do you know what that means, Noble? I'm lost. I'm more upset to get rid of this
No.
Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know what the spoon is. What's the no spoon, Melissa? Enlighten me. In the movie The Matrix. I don't know.
Right. No, yeah. I get it. There is no spoon. Huh. Yeah, I'd have to think about how to come back on that. Yeah, the way to manipulate the spoon is knowing that there is no spoon.
That's right.
It might hold a little bit of angle of truth if you say there is no spoon because it's really just all energy. It's not there. I think the better way to word that would be there is no physical, right? So therefore, it's malleable energy.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It is a Hollywood movie. Maybe they just want us to be left in the dark.
Yeah.
There is no spoon. Yeah. There's no me either, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that gets a little too close to what I like. I mean, I don't know. I can't agree with there is no spoon. I use one to eat my cereal all the time, so I know there's a spoon. I don't think the way to manipulate it is to think it isn't there. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Mind over reality. Well, to an extent, like I said, but not to the extreme that a lot of them try to take it. White Rabbit said, thanks for the spontaneous conversation and for being here and sharing our thoughts. Thank you guys for showing up and hanging out with us. Yeah, I don't tend to have a script, or that's the way I always am. I just go with the flow. Spirit don't really have a script, so neither do I. I knew something interesting would be talked about, and sure enough, Noble didn't let me down. If anyone else wants to ever come on or has any questions you think of later, you can always shoot me an email. I'll type it in the chat here. If you'd like to be a guest or have a question for the next time we get together, you can shoot me an email there. You can also use that to add me to Hangouts. That's how I like to prefer. I hate typing. I like to talk. So I like Hangouts. Jim Carrey, there is no me. Yeah, exactly. There is no spoon. There is no me. Well, I know there's a me. Laird Life, question. What is your theory on those who don't see the most significant changes within Mandela effect? And how many R's in Subaru Forester? Well, I love Subarus to start with. So I know a little bit about Subarus. I always thought there was two R's. I didn't know it had changed to one, or did it change to two? I don't know what that change is, but I thought there was two R's. My theory on why a lot don't see it, again, I go right back to scripture, and He turned them over to the strong delusion that they wanted, is why I think they don't see it. They're not seeking the truth. They're not going to see the truth, is what it boils down to for me. What's your thoughts on that, Noble?
Currently, Subaru has 1R.
Now,
I have no idea.
Forester, I think, is the one or 2Rs. What's your thoughts on why a lot of people don't see the changes?
Oh, there's a lot of factors. I mean, definitely some of it is people are too busy. It's too far of a stretch for them to even consider it. So the cognitive dissonance certainly kicks in many cases. In some cases, there's literally been memory overwritten, not rewritten, but overwritten, which is your mind will essentially therefore rewrite it because it only accesses the most recent knowing of that, let's say. The strongest memory. That's the main ones. Coming from the other direction. No, I think if God poured out his spirit, he poured it out on everybody, if that's a factor. That, you know, we're becoming a little bit more aware of the spiritual world, which therefore we become more aware when changes happen, because the spiritual factor keeps us disconnected from the time, or I shouldn't say that, allows us to perceive things that have been changed outside of time. And therefore, yeah, I don't know. It's tricky because I think there's like kind of two main sort of aspects of when changes happen. Like some of it, it almost, there's a natural effect, whereas things, I don't know how to put it. The reality will fix itself. Like it's like a balancing or leveling out effect. When there's a change made, automatically normalization is actually like the scientific term for it, that things will just kind of smooth out and become normal, whether it be physical or even within history, to make it to normalize it for the physical realm, or the limited physical realm and perspective that we exist in. It's normalized, and that literally means rewriting history. Now, does that mean literally history has been changed, or it just appears like it's been changed? So that's a really big question I really can't figure out, and I have no way of figuring that out. I really don't. But there does seem to be a natural effect that happens, that really would happen because God created reality, you know, and we exist in it, and God created us. So there's natural stuff that happens. Seems natural, but like normal, like basically if evil changed something, there's a bunch of stuff that'll smooth itself out automatically without them needing to do it, because they're messing with reality that is of God's, you know, was originally God's reality, or whatever it still is essentially, and ours, and our effect on it. And it's probably a lot of our effect on it, of existing within it for millennia, that makes it the way it is. That's what normalizes it. We always think, you know, the way things act and react and look, and the way things should be, or the way things could be, it's all imprinted into reality in this energy, like information. And so it'll normalize like that. It's almost like it's not a consciousness, but it would almost act like it. It almost seems like it has intelligence, but it isn't intelligence. It's our essence of understanding that imprints into all of the energy around us. So even if we were all gone for a bit, it would still exist here. Kind of, I shouldn't say it, because it isn't a something, you know. It's just an essence of being, of normal. What's normal, you know. I'm really not doing a good job of explaining this. It's complicated. It's a normalization factor anyway. So yeah, when they change things, it seems like it was always like that, you know. It won't be like all twisted and make no sense. Everything will still make relatively sense. But honestly, because evil's doing it, it doesn't come out so perfectly. It really doesn't do. There's mutations all the time. I find them all the time. the whole world's messed up. None of it makes any sense because evil changed it, and they're really not that good at it. They really botch the whole thing and mutate the whole thing, and it's horrific what they're doing to freaking reality, bastards. I'm really not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely see the world's going downhill rapidly in the last 10, 20 years. Looks like strictly my opinion has to go. I love you. Take care, sister. I need to get you on this show sometime. I want to hear some of your stuff. You got some good stuff to tell. Red bananas in Canada. Now, see, this is exactly why I don't check into all the Mandela stuff, because there's some stuff that just ain't. You got to mess with my bananas now. Red bananas. I don't want to go there. That's just too much. Narwhals are real. I did reports on them in grade school as a child. Narwhals have always been around. Thanks to everyone. God bless you all. Good night. Rabbit's got to leave us. He's got to hop off. See you, Rabbit. Love you, brother.
What was one of them was about the banana, was it?
Yeah, Arbolo said there's red bananas in Canada now. You people are crazy up there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I seen a girl did a video on the blue and the red bananas. What's World Church or something? She names her YouTube The World Church or World Church or something, which doesn't say. Honestly, I would have went with a better title. It isn't as the angle that people might assume from that type of title. It's not like the New World Order Church, you know. But
she's the World Church. That makes sense.
Yeah, it is actually. She's pretty good. I mean, like, and she's not like scripture based sort of teaching. She's just very spiritual, I guess, in a biblically angled way without being a Bible bumper. You know, I don't know how to put it, but yeah, she's not really new agey-ish. She's more traditional, but not doctrine driven, right? I guess that'd be one way of putting it. But she did a video on it, and the blue bananas apparently taste a lot like vanilla. Like, what? So definitely it seems new to me. Like, I think it's a pretty good Mandela effect. Like, I don't understand how these things could exist and they didn't get popular unless they're extremely hard to grow. Like, even if they're rare, it doesn't mean they can't just start growing them. So unless they're really hard to grow, they're probably a Mandela effect, and or because I think it's possible, and even with some of the animals, I strongly consider it's possible for them to genetically modify, like genetically engineer something and put it into reality, like just have it, right? Because they own a lot of corporations, a lot of farms or whatever, to just put it into society, and then essentially Mandela or spell could be another way of looking at it, and especially in this case, into effect, so that it's normal. Oh, it's not a new thing. That always existed, right? So you could have people be like, oh, look what they got now, right? And they'd be like, oh yeah, I knew about them. So people don't mind. So they're not going to be like, what's that? Some genetically engineered banana? Oh no, I knew about that, right? So it becomes normal. It's instantly normalized, right? And then all of a sudden we're instantly eating all this genetically modified crap. I don't know. Something I've suspected, and it could be the case with these bananas. I don't know.
And it does get confusing, because I know I've seen people talking about purple potatoes and how they think they're a Mandela, but they were a big joke. My dad was always getting purple potatoes off my one uncle when I'm talking this 50 years ago, and making purple potatoes just to freak us out as kids, because we didn't want to eat weird looking potatoes. So they've always been around.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that's been around, but I guess more locally recognized and not worldly recognized, like narwhals, for instance. I mean, I know they've been around forever. So those are two big ones that I noticed that just from my personal experience as a child, I know narwhals have always been there, and purple potatoes.
Yeah, I agree with narwhal for sure. And I was kind of like, I certainly wasn't really too sure about the potatoes. Like, I was thinking something about them seemed familiar, but yeah, they're a South American thing.
Yeah, well, we grow up in Pennsylvania. I mean, we grow purple potatoes around here. I can get them every week. Well, during the summer at the farmer's market, the Amish market, you can buy all the purple potatoes you want. Yeah, they've been around forever. Dragon fruit, I don't know. I've never seen or heard of
dragon fruit. Yeah, I knew about that.
Yeah.
Star fruit, dragon fruit. Yeah, they've been around.
I've heard of star fruit. Is that also what they call that, dragon fruit? I know what a star fruit is. They've been around forever.
No, just in my mind, I put it in the same category. Some weird Chinese fruit.
Yeah, we got star fruit.
I definitely heard of it before.
Yeah, purple potatoes basically taste just like regular potatoes. I mean, there isn't really much of a taste difference in them. Dad used to just do it to freak us out because you're kids. You're like, why is my French fries purple? It's freaky looking. Mashed potatoes are purple. It's crazy.
It's a pretty good topic, though. Mandela effects that you don't think are Mandela effects. And for myself, I kind of have two categories. I have ones that I almost know they're not Mandela effects because I have multiple memories of it, like different connecting memories of it as well. And then there's other things that I know about, but it's more like I just kind of know. I don't know why I know. I mean, I could say, oh, well, I remember when I was young. It doesn't mean anything right now. It really doesn't. So some things that I would say I don't think they are because I only have one core memory as of it, but I don't think it is. One of them being Tiny Toons. I knew Tiny Toons as literally tunes, as in singing, because in the 80s, at the beginning of the cartoon, they go in the little window and they sing, and it was kind of like their little thing. In fact, the term toon, as in short for cartoon, that didn't even really exist until the late 80s, that this shortened version of referring to a cartoon even existed. The term toon was not a thing at the beginning of cartoons, or like in the old days of cartoons. Toon is like a modernish term, essentially. I don't think came around to the late 80s. So Tiny Toons, I don't think is, but.
Arbolo 29 says pacu fish with human teeth. Yeah, that one's pretty freaky. I don't know if I've done a lot of fishing. I never caught one with human teeth. Caught some with nasty sharp teeth, but Durga Berto just came in. Howdy. Yeah, I've got pike and stuff like that, muskie. Yeah, they've got very sharp dagger-like teeth, but they're not human teeth. So yeah, the human tooth fish, that's pretty freaky. Yeah, and I think We Are Dust is right. I think there's an old X-File episode about that. I think We Are Dust is right. Because I used to watch all the X-Files. I think there is a human tooth fish episode long ago. I think there is.
Huh. I was watching some documentaries and stuff here today, and it had to do with the fisheries in my region. A bunch of political and corporate stuff, of course, is in that. But I ran across some guys, some local fishermen, or local region, and in the last handful of years, like there's a lot of fish showing up that they've never seen before. They got some pictures of them. I grabbed some pictures of them. But even like whatever they are, it isn't like, I mean, one, the water, the currents or something is changing, so it's warmer, but it doesn't even make sense what they are because they don't even exist down south. So like they can't even figure out what these fish are, let alone the fact that they exist here now. They're in these waters now. There's a lot. They're actually kind of freaking out, right? But of course, and sadly, everything gets blamed on, it's global warming. But no, it goes beyond that. Like, what are these fish, right? Most of them are really small, like just little fish. But nonetheless, it's like, what's going on?
I mean, and you got to wonder.
Apparently, it's quite a thing.
Yeah, and you got to wonder how much of that could relate back to Fukushima and stuff with all the radiation and the oil spills. I mean, there's been a lot of nasty stuff dumped in the water. So could that be causing a lot of it? You know what I mean? Highly possible.
Yeah, from what I seen, about half of them, or at least if not more than half of them, is most likely a pollution or radiation issue. And you can just tell by looking at them. Like you get translucent skin, you get big eyes, you get sort of mutative features or looks to it. But then there's other cases where it's just like Who knows? I can show you one here that was interesting that showed up. One second there, and I'll throw it on a screen share for you.
Okay, Laird Life says the biggest ones for him are tied between changes in familiar cinematic productions, biological changes, whether it's human anatomy or someone dying multiple times. Yeah, they're definitely the biggies. It's pretty hard to just explain away as normal. Yeah, they're pretty big. Those changes are definitely big. I agree.
Yeah. Do you see this picture here?
Oh yeah.
Or if you're able to show the audience or not.
Let me make sure. How do I let you screen share? Present to everyone. Okay. You guys, can you see that now? Hopefully they can see it now.
Yep. I think they get it. Yeah. So these fish, like, we don't have any. They're only like 4 or 5 inches long, but we have nothing like this in the waters. This long nose. It's labeled as a type of filefish, but even when I Google and start researching into filefish, like none of them are pink like this. None of them. Some of them have kind of long noses, or this is actually their mouth. Their whole mouth opens up like this. But definitely, it's a filefish is a warm fish that would exist typically around coral, like coral reefs and stuff. It's not warm enough for us to even have coral in the region. Just weird, you know, and none of them look like this. It has this hard pointy spike that comes out the back.
Yeah, that's weird. And that's sort of a cross between a perch and an alligator gar. It almost is. I mean, not quite as long as an alligator gar, but definitely a perchy color. I never seen nothing like it, that's for sure. Definitely weird.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
To have a bright pink color like that is awful odd for around here.
It's definitely a strange one. There is some.
That's not a cold water fish. No, it isn't. Shouldn't be.
Not a cold water, no.
There's the moon.
The moon.
I get some pictures of the moon from an old commercial, and it actually does look very similar to what we have currently, but the direction is different. So if you look at what kind of looks like a face here, like 2 eyes and a little mouth area, sort of the top and center of the head would be around a 30 direction, let's say. Whereas if you look out the window right now, which I did earlier today, the top of the head, it would be at a 10, 30 direction.
Right.
So definitely I got the twist, and the twisting of the moon was coming up as officially real or accepted or recognized. I can't find that information right now. I tried to before the show, but I didn't come up with anything. So I don't know if they still tell people that the moon turns back and forth like a clock, like, you know, one way and then back. They were saying that for a while officially, according to Dan. He looked it up because it was doing it a lot for a while. Like, it would twist right around and come right back around again. So it was a part of essentially reality, which was nonsense. It never did that when I was growing up. Like, definitely that was never ever taught. Yeah. It never changed. Like, the man on the moon never changed direction at all. And I don't know. I thought I found the man on the moon here, but I can't quite remember what he looked like.
I got these cool creatures that the wife found in our aquarium when she cleaned it out. I tried to get some video of them. Let's see if I can share it. Let's see how I get it going here. The video is a little rough because I was in a mason jar and the camera, but I got a little bit of.
You found something strange?
Oh yeah, these
in your aquarium?
We didn't put these in the aquarium. She was cleaning out the filter and found these little creatures, and I got them on film. Let me get it going here. I have no clue what they are. Huh. They're wild looking. They sort of, well, hold on, let me pause that. Now let me figure out how to screen share me. Okay, you guys see that? Oh, I better turn the music down. I'll get busted. Can you see it? Is it showing up? I can't see chat, so can they see it?
I'm about to take a look here. No, no. Just your, no, just you. Just your pick.
Can they see it? I can't hear.
Nope, not yet.
Oh, they can't see it? Okay, let me figure out how I share it. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Now they can see. Now let me rewind it. Rewind it to the beginning. All right, now you can see it, right? Oh, don't do that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, these are just some weird creatures. Came out of our fish tank. No clue where they come from, how they got there. I mean, ain't like we added any weird rocks or just had the same aquarium set up for years. There they are. That's pretty cool. I also got a cool video of a perfect chemtrail around the moon, full moon, but I didn't upload it yet. Maybe I'll have it for next week's show. I'll show you the wild ring around the moon. I thought these creatures were pretty weird. No clue where they came from, what the heck they are. They're strange looking creatures.
Do they seem like bloodsuckers?
Well,
leeches?
I sort of thought almost maybe. I mean, just, I don't know. They sort of look sort of flat and like a leech would.
Looks like that guy has a bubble on the end of his tail, holding his tail up or something.
Yeah, exactly. And this dude's working on getting one. Yeah, that's what I noticed. They put like a bubble in their tail.
Wow.
Very weird looking creature.
I've never seen a leech do that.
No.
You know, that sort of brings me to the question of something that goes totally against science, like what we're taught. But given the whole Mandela effect situation and our anatomy and whatever, and it kind of came into question, like we had some flour and the flour went, like there was these little bugs in the flour. It got really old and they were like little tiny, almost microscopic little tiny things crawling around, but like tons of them.
Yeah, these things
but
they aren't real big. They was probably maybe an inch and a half long. And if they are leeches, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
How did they get in my aquarium? Is the point. We had a nose.
Well, see,
like
there was something that was said, like someone said to me, like, oh, they just sort of manifest themselves. I'm like, that's stupid. No, they don't, right? But you know what? How do we know? And then I don't want to use just fully like from nothing, but essentially you have bacterial life everywhere.
Yeah.
How do we really know that bacterial life can't essentially evolve, for lack of a better term, over a short period of time? How do we know this? You could say, oh, we could pull off an experiment to try it out. Well, if we do that, then science is going to claim, oh, well, that there was an egg or there was some of these things that already existed in your substance before the experiment, and that's why you have it there. But the only way to get around that is to destroy all the life by bleaching it or killing it with radiation. But then you kill all the microscopic life too. So I don't think there's really any way for us to prove it one way or the other. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the crap can literally evolve in a short period of time, and if it's smaller, maybe the smaller it is, the quicker it can evolve. I don't really know. There's no way for us to prove it or disprove it.
You have a picture.
And to tell you the truth, it wouldn't surprise me if it was true that they would hide it, because they wouldn't want us to know, because then we might clue in that our past was not that far away. You know, given whether the dinosaur thing for millions of years, which is probably BS, right? All these millions and billions of years. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just 6, 7, 10,000 years ago, right? There was a whole lot of different things going on with life, and they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know that we're evolving quickly. And I'm using the word evolve lightly, because I'm not referring to a change of species. I'm referring just to conditioning of the animal, right?
Yeah. Yep. I was checking out chat, seeing what they were saying. They're saying it may have come from inside one of the fish. Anything's possible. I don't know. I just thought it was pretty wild. Could have come from the fish food. Highly possible, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, they're dead. They died. We had them in a mason jar and got some video, and they died about a day. Ooh, you got a McDonald's cup? Is that a McDonald's cup?
Just about, eh? That's my Canadian for the day.
It almost looks like a McDonald's.
Well, it's blurry. It's a snippet from a commercial. But the thing is, it's not that it's a MAC, but it's the fact that it's clearly something more than an MC. So what's going on? Yeah. Again, it's mutated. It's because it was a blurry commercial. And so it didn't change properly. We've seen this before. You can get sort of in between things or things that hold true because it's blurry. And it's just whatever. Again, it's the on-perfect manipulation of reality. But yeah, there's like literally a gap between the M and the C. And even the M is like taking up an awful wide space here. So what's going on, right? Now you can look at it and be like, oh, well, it's not MAC. There's not enough room or it doesn't work out. Okay, it's not MAC. But I'll tell you right now, it's not MC. So what is it? It's an M-ish thing going on with a gap and then a C, because the D is right in the middle. Yep. So what the heck's going on here, right? It was MAC at one time. It's some garbage in between is what it is, but clearly it's not just an MC. I get them a lot in the old commercial.
Hippie's giving me heck for killing the weird creature bugs. Well, I wasn't letting them in my tank because I don't want them eating what fish I got, and putting them outside. They seem to be water creatures, so I could have put them out there and let them die, I guess. If that would have been a little more humane.
There's a Kmart that lost its dash.
Yep, lost its dash.
Like, kind of clearly lost its dash. Like, what's the K doing way over there?
Yeah.
Relatively, you know. Here's one that I remember.
I don't think everything that's walking around alive is meant to be here. That I agree with that.
What's the area there they launched the rockets? Cape Canaveral? I think it is.
Yeah, Cape Canaveral was one of the big ones. That's the one I've been to before and watched the one Apollo would launch. I forget which one.
See, when I used to see these rocket launches, it wasn't water all around it. This is all new. It's where all the freaking East Coast, a great deal of freaking coastlines all messed up and sunk away. And now Cape Canaveral is like all this freaking water area all around it. Never in the old clips was I seeing water and land and water and land and water and land. No. Nah, big mess.
I don't remember that either. It was near water, but it wasn't like surrounded by water like that. I love bees too. Flies,
right.
Bees I love. Not so much flies.
Well, here's a cool one for you. I'm just going through a couple pictures. I got all these yesterday. I went through, I must have went through like 5 or 6 hours of old commercials from the early 90s. This was from a news broadcast when they were talking about Chernobyl, which must have happened in the late 80s, Chernobyl did. And they were talking about different things that are affected by, you know, radiation in your body and whatever. They're idiots. But look where the kidneys are. Way below the rib cage.
Yeah.
And the liver is not that big. The stomach is more sideways than it is now. They had the ovaries the new way, which is odd. Didn't expect to see that. But yeah, definitely the kidneys there is a slam dunk of the old way.
Yeah, no, Hippie, I ain't letting them in my tank to attach to my fish. What are you talking about? I don't want no parasite on my fish. I love my fish. And I don't agree that everything that's walking around alive is meant to be here. No, 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 no. That could be your opinion, and you're welcome to it, but I do not think that everything alive today is meant to be. Other words, Jesus wouldn't have said if your book isn't in the book of life. Other words, there must be stuff walking around here that's never meant to be alive. That's just how I look at it. I don't want to watch it grow. That's my point.
Do you remember Attends?
Attends? No.
Yeah. It was a brand that started to try to compete with Depends. But obviously Depends won out. But the main point is here's the S, right? I mean, it's not like it's residue. It's just indirect evidence, I guess you could call it at best. It was a Volkswagen. A VW.
Yeah.
Without the brake.
I don't like it. Don't look right. There must be layers to this life. You're so right there, my brother. There's definitely layers to this life. Yeah, I know what you're saying, hippie, but yeah, I didn't want to live them. I don't know what they are. I didn't mean to kill them. I had them in the jar. I thought maybe some scientist or something would want them, but they died. I didn't. One kidney? No, we have two kidneys because I have one that failed a long, long time ago. So if we only had one, I'd have been in trouble. We got a kidney on each side. Well,
yeah, with the ovaries, what's his name? Need Input did a video on that, and the funny thing is, I already knew about this change, but I didn't ever recognize it as a Mandela effect because I brought it up to my girlfriend like it was a couple of years ago, and like I don't remember the ovaries being all the way down like that. Like they used to be up, like up high, and then curve around and out, so that the egg would literally have to come like down. Now they're like the fallopian tubes is like sideways, and it comes over instead of from up high. So, and like now there's actually a ligament, is it called, or something, some little piece of attachment where the ovary will actually attach back
yeah,
around, which is totally new.
The new channel, Mandela Health and something, I forget her name. She just started her channel, Mandela Health something.
Oh.
She was starting to say something about that. She's going to do it. She's a nurse, and she's going to do a lot of the body changes. I'm looking forward to it. She started saying something about the ovaries in her last video. Now, she don't think they're quite different, but she didn't get too much into it. She was just doing a little intro into what she's going to be talking about. So I don't know. The only thing I know about female anatomy is from the outside. That's all I'll say about that. I know nothing about the anatomy. Outside stuff. Their life says we're cracking him up. That is good. I like to laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. Or a believer in that. Besides, life's nasty enough. You got to laugh. If you don't laugh in this life, you're going to have a very sad, disturbed life. I'll tell you that. How can you not laugh at this crazy life? The world's gone insane. You might as well laugh. Till the big man comes back to fix it all up, might as well just enjoy the ride. Stick with the big man. It'll be all right. Yeah, Mandela Health.
When I was in high school, they had just started implementing, actually, no, it was junior high. They just started implementing sex education. So whatever small, very mild level it was at that time, it was brought in very lightly. But the first guy, I think, or second guy that was ever teaching it for a class I was in was our gym teacher, essentially, that would come into a class, but she's never in a classroom. So he comes in, he's like, all right, first thing you need to learn is what would he say, bugs or lice or something, right? And how to deal with pubic lice. So you start off and you take a shaver and you shave a bald spot right down the middle, and you light this side on fire, and when they try to run across, you beat them with a wooden spoon.
Yep, I've heard that one. I think my dad taught me that.
Did you?
My dad was quite.
I thought he just made it up. It was just stupid.
Okay, and now the shows took a very weird twist. Let's
Well, that was supposed to be the funny. Lair wanted to laugh, so you know.
You got a good one there. I hope. Should have got a good one. Yeah, Dad always told us you set it on fire and stab the ones going across with an ice pick. But like I said, my dad was a little.
An ice pick.
Yeah, he was.
Sounds a little more painful than wooden spoon.
I can't tell you half the stuff Dad taught me. Especially not in this day and age. Oh my goodness, that'd be all kind of stuff. Bow, bow. Well, I guess we've been gone almost 2 hours. Not a bad first show.
Have we?
I think so.
Sure.
Looks like it. Close. But I guess we don't have any more questions in the chat. No one seems to want to come in. So I guess we'll get ready to wrap this one up. Any last questions? Throw them in there. Yeah, that's true, layered life. Yep. Oh, yeah. As a child, there was lots of cruel things done. I know that, at least from my experience. Well, like I said, you all got my email address. I'll throw it in there again in case anyone doesn't. Send me any questions, or if you want to be on the show, hit me up. Get an email address. Also, you can get me on Hangouts with that.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, I guess we will call it a show.
If you were.
Thanks a million for coming on. I appreciate it, brother. I don't know where my host went. Hopefully she'll be here next week with me. Also, I'd like to have at least I'd like to have a little panel, like 2 males, 2 females. Right now it's me and Belinda. So if you're a female out there and you'd like to be on the panel every week, let me know. If you're a male, let me know. I'd like to have maybe a couple people on, like regulars and then a guest, or I don't know. Plan it by ear, but if you're interested in being on the show as a regular or just as a guest, let me know.
What is Melissa going on about? Tonight's the night that you set your clock back 45 minutes.
Ooh, do we get spring back? Finally, man. I'm so sick of it.
Yeah, 45 minutes. That's the catch, though.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
Please tell me that's a joke, or I'm going to bash my head off a wall.
Yeah, we can't be doing minutes now. Bad enough trying to remember how.
It certainly can't be 45. Don't tell me daylight savings is 45 and that's normal for everybody. Freaking lose it.
He said, no, read the rest. The last time we changed from... okay, now I get it. Okay. I got you now, Melissa. Yeah, Nobleness Dee is an awesome speaker. I mean, I think literally one night it was, 6, 7 hours? Just me and you talking together. I mean, this man got so much info. He's amazing. Nobleness is an awesome person to talk to. I love talking to him. Hours and hours.
Thanks. Yeah, you can thank the Mandela effect for a good portion. Otherwise, I'd be talking about, I don't know, probably marijuana and video games and work, girls. I don't know. I didn't really talk about girls much.
Yeah, I could talk about those subjects back in the day, that's for sure.
freaking politics. Oh, actually, to tell you the truth, before the Mandela effect, a lot of it would have been conspiracy theory stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I was into that long before Mandela.
So much.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, I guess we are going to call it, people. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I love all you guys and gals. And we will catch you next week at 11 Eastern, or I'll catch you Saturday night co-hosting the Speakeasy. Hopefully I will have my new headset by then. Everything will be back to normal. So thanks again, Noble. Appreciate it, brother. Loved having you on.
My pleasure.
I will throw a link right here in this chat. Anyone who wants to come in, I'm going to leave this up a bit. We're going to do a little after chat. So anyone that wants to come yak off air with us, feel free to click this link and you will automatically join us. But please wait till I go off air, which is going to be in a second. So, mothers, love, and blessings all. Thank you very much. Noble, any last words, my brother?
No, just thank everyone for coming out, hanging around. Would be a show without you.
Love you guys.